Hi and welcome to Being Surreal, and in today's episode we are going to talk about how life is unfair and can you really do anything about it, and if you can, then what you should do. So a few weeks ago I started to listening to this podcast on Spotify called The Stories of Mahabharata by Sudipta Bhomik, and it's a pretty good podcast. If you want, you should all, like, I would suggest you to go and listen to the podcast. Like, it's really good. The narration, the music, and the story of course is pretty good, and you should check it out. Like, it's really good. So I was listening to it, and there's this particular part of the story where it talks about Eklavya. Like, I'm sure you would have heard about this story, and if not, I'll give you a brief about it. So, what happens in with Eklavya was that he wanted Guru Drona to be his teacher so that he could learn the warfare arts from him. But Guru Drona refused because he was the teacher to only princes, not some tribal. Because Eklavya was a tribal kid, not he was not a prince, or he didn't belong to the warrior tribe. He was just a tribal guy. So after getting refused by him, he went away. And few weeks later, after, not exactly few times, but after some time, uh, when he was practicing, a dog came and the dog started barking at him. So what Eklavya did, he shot a few arrows in such a manner that they all got into the dog's mouth and it shut it. But even though there were so many arrows, none of them hurt the dog. And when the dog went back to the Pandavas and Kauravas, everyone was astonished when they saw, because that kind of thing required a lot of skills, and someone who was highly trained in that skill and who was highly trained in archery, only he could have done that. So what happened was they then took the dog out again and went to look who did that. So when they all reached, all the Kauravas and Pandavas and including Guru Drona, they saw that Eklavya was practicing the archery, and he had a statue of Guru Drona, and he was practicing in front of him. And when Guru Drona asked that where did you learn from this, he asked this to Eklavya. Eklavya said that I learned it from you. After you rejected me, I came back to the jungle. I made a statue of you and I practiced under you. So this up to this point, it's a very good story. Like, it's pretty positive. It shows that you can do a lot of things if you really want to and you really desire. But crazy things starts from now. So what happens next is that Guru Drona had promised Arjuna that he would be the greatest archer of all time. But since Eklavya was really that good, Arjun was jealous, and he was sad because he wanted to be the best archer in the whole world. So this thing upsetted Guru Drona. Guru Drona told Eklavya that in Kshatriya tradition, Kshatriya is basically the warrior tradition. So in Kshatriya tradition, when you learn something from your teacher, you have to offer something, and it's called Guru Dakshina. So Eklavya asked Guru Drona that what do you want from me as Guru Dakshina. Guru Drona asked him for his right hand thumb, and everyone there was shocked because they knew that if Eklavya gives of his right hand's thumb, equally skilled as he is now after giving that thumb away, the skill set he has, the archery skill set he has, would go away. But Eklavya, without even thinking for a second, took out a knife and cut off his thumb and gave it to Guru Drona as Guru Dakshina. So that part of the story really intrigued me, and I got into thinking that life is really unfair. Like, it can never be fair. But I see a lot of people complaining that life is unfair, that this thing only happens with me, and life is too cruel, I don't want to live. And to be honest, that kind of thinking happened to me too earlier. Like I had this kind of victim mindset, that whenever something bad would happen to me, I would always compare my sad times with others' good time, like how they are having a really good life, that how they have this and that, and I don't have those things. And then I would complain that life is unfair, it is really bad. But over time, I got over that thinking, because I realized that life is unfair, and it's not that it's unfair to you only, it's unfair to everyone. And the thing is, you can't keep on complaining that life is unfair. Like, sure, you can go ahead and keep complaining, but what you should not do is, while you are complaining, you should not give up working on yourself. So what they do is that they start complaining, and in the process of complaining, they stop doing everything and they just keep on complaining. And that is very, in my opinion, that is very bad thing to do, because you have a lot of stuff to do, you have a lot of things to do, you have a lot of things to accomplish. But when you start complaining, you get stuck in that, you get stuck in the moment, and you can't really do anything. So like, you can go ahead and complain your whole life that life is unfair, but complaining about this won't make it fair to you. It would never. You can try whatever, you can waste your whole life doing that, but it won't make it fair for you. It doesn't. That's how life works. It has its own up and down. There would be moment when you would be like on the peak, and then there would be moment when you are at your deepest. Like, this is how things work. At one moment you might be at the peak, and you might be having good times, like you enjoy, and you're really enjoying it, everything is turning good for you. And later on, at some point of time, what happens is that those good things become bad, and everything just starts to go south, and to you it seems that life is just bad. Because there is a saying called 1,000 days of joy is equal to a day of sorrow, and that saying is pretty true. Because you see, what happens is that when you are feeling sad, you get into overthinking, and all of things seems to move slow. But when you are happy, everything is exciting. The whole ecstasy thing makes time flow fast. Not literally though, but for someone experiencing that, it surely does. So as I was saying, that a lot of people do keep complaining, and they don't do work at all, and all they do is just complaining. And the thing with that is, even if you do, you are not really doing anything, but also you are probably making it more unfair for you. Like, I'll explain. Like, there is no statistical data or anything to prove this, but this is what I believe. That, let's say, what happens is, you are trying to, like, let's say you are preparing for a competitive exam. Like, let's assume you prepared for a national level exam like JEE. So what you did was, you prepared for it, you prepared for 2 whole years of your life, and you still didn't get decent enough marks to crack it. So what you do is, like, let's say you take a drop next year, and then you prepare again, and this time too your luck failed, and you do this as many times as you can, but you still didn't crack the exam. So your first reaction would be remorse and regret, that you worked so hard and you still didn't get it. And you would be thinking that life is really unfair, and it is. And you can keep complaining about it, but let's just assume that you just keep complaining about it, and even though you get into some other good college, not the one you wanted, but some other good college, and you just keep thinking that if only you had cracked that exam, you would have been in better college, then you won't really know what's really going on around you. You will be just too focused on, and you would be dwelling on the past, that you didn't get the exam cracked and now you are in that situation. And because of that, because of the whole not being in the moment and following your current thing, you would be pretty messed up in future, because now you had the opportunity to do other things and learn new things, but you didn't because you were busy repenting. Just because you lost this crucial time wasting and repenting, there would be opportunities in future when you would have that opportunity to do something regarding, if only you had used this time properly, but you were busy, and that would make your life more unfair. Like, you could have learned video editing, for example. So you could have learned video editing in that time when you started in a new college, and that would have been a good use of your time, and you would probably have used that in future. But since you didn't, and you were busy repenting, you would lose that opportunity, and this again would make you say that life is unfair for you. But there are a lot of moments when life is unfair, but we could have done things right, and it's not because of just life, it's because of our own past things. But so, like, I'm still listening to the podcast, and from what stories I've heard in the podcast, and from what I know about my scriptures, I have learned that Mahabharata is full of stories that are unfair. The character one which whom the most unfair things have been done is Karna, and his life was really unfair. Like, he was abandoned by her mother, and only, like, spoiler alerts, but her mother only revealed herself in front of him when he was about to go to war with his own brothers, because he didn't knew. She only revealed her identity just to stop her other 5 sons to get killed by him. That was when she revealed her own identity to her own son. That, like, how unfair is that? He wasn't allowed to participate in a challenge with Pandavas and Kauravas because he was not a Kshatriya. He was he was actually a Kshatriya son, but they didn't know about his real identity. For them, he was a chariot rider's son, and that's why they didn't allow him to participate. But yeah, Duryodhan allowed him to, and that was really good of Duryodhana too. So his life was full of unfairity. Like, he got his armor snatched away by, not really snatched, like, he donated it, but he was tricked into doing that. And this whole Karn is the most the character who got treated unfairly by life. His life was too unfair. But you know what's a good thing about Karna is that even though his life was unfair, he never really complained about it, like, my life is unfair, this or that. What he did was he worked on himself, and even though his life was unfair, you can see a lot of people named Karn, because even though his life was unfair, he was really great. He was best in his field. He was the top notch guy in the Mahabharata. Like, once I finish this podcast, I'll probably read Mahabharata. Like, I'm planning to do it for a while, but I couldn't get a good enough book, so I'll probably keep searching for a good translation one, And then yeah, so as I was saying, that what you should learn from Karn is that even though his life was a mess, his life was really unfair to him, he didn't stop, and he kept working hard on himself, and now he is the one of the greatest warrior of all time, and he was one of the greatest warrior of Mahabharata. And you can see that a lot of people share their name with him. Like Karn is very, not very, but it's pretty popular name among boys, that a lot of boys have this name. And in the end, I would just like to say that even though life is unfair, you you can complain about it, but you shouldn't. And what you should rather do is you should work on yourself, you should work on your skills, so that even though life is unfair, you cope up with it, because life would be unfair for others too, and that's the time you take leverage, and that's how you win in life, because life is unfair to everyone. You are not some special person that life is just unfair to you. So instead of complaining that life is unfair, work it out. You should not really waste your time in complaining about it, because complaining about this thing never helped anyone. And with that, I would just end my episode here. Thank you, and have a nice day. Bye.